Hey everybody, it's Mr. Neil. As you can see, we're in the kitchen today, and that's because we are going to be making a cake. And this is a really special cake. It's a graham cracker cake, and it is my Bush's recipe. My Busha is my mom's grandma. And the reason I want to make this today is because we've all had to stay inside so much recently that I think it's a good idea for us to start thinking about what we can do inside. And when I was a little boy, I loved baking with my mom. She would pick me and my brothers up, and she would put us on the countertops, and we would get to add ingredients into the mixer and lick spoons of cookie dough. And it's really good memories of mine. So that's what I want to share with you today. Well, I hope you enjoyed the pictures of me when I was little baking with my brothers. The next thing we need to do for this recipe is to separate some eggs. We need to take the whites and the yolk and separate them. So to do that, we're going to take an egg and we're going to crack it carefully, and then we're going to pull the two pieces apart, and we want to make sure that we separate the yolk, which is the yellow part, from the white of the egg, because we're going to use the white to make a meringue in just a moment. So I got the yolk over here. I'm gonna put it in the bowl. All right, so I've got 3 egg whites that we separated earlier, and I'm gonna put them in the bowl of the mixer, and I'm gonna turn it on until it starts to make some bubbles. Careful, it's gonna be a little loud for a moment. So as you can see, the egg whites mixed up and they got nice and fluffy. And now we need to add a 1/4 cup of sugar to the 3 egg whites that we mixed up. So I'm gonna put that back into the bowl, and I'm gonna take a measuring cup, and I'm gonna measure out a 1/4 cup of sugar. I'm gonna level it off, and I'm gonna turn the machine on, raise it up, lock it into place, and I'm going to add the sugar nice and slowly. And then after just a moment, those egg whites are going to look soft and silky. So the egg whites are done, and we know they're done because they kind of form a peak and hold their shape when I take them out of the bowl on the whisk. So now I'm going to set them aside, and we're going to go on to the next step of the cake. Okay, so for the next step, we're going to need to take 1 stick of butter, and we're going to need to cream it. So it should be room temperature. And we're going to put it in the bowl, kind of shake it out there. And then we're gonna raise up the bowl again, and we're gonna start mixing it slowly. And I'm gonna add in a 1/2 cup of sugar. But I don't have a 1/2 cup, I have a 1/3 cup. I grabbed the wrong one. That's better. So a 1/2 cup again, level. This time I'm just gonna use my finger. And I'm gonna put it in with the butter. And I'm gonna let that mix for just another minute. So after it mixes for a minute, I'm gonna take a spatula and I'm gonna scrape down the sides of the bowl. And then I'm gonna need to add in 2 egg yolks that we saved from earlier. And you can just drop those right in. You can use the spatula to help if you need it. We're also gonna add in a 1/2 cup of milk. And I'm gonna check the recipe to see how much vanilla we need to add. We need 3/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla. So I'm gonna take the teaspoon and I'm gonna fill it up most of the way, but not all of the way. My mom always liked vanilla, so if you put a little extra in, she wouldn't mind in this recipe. So I'm gonna turn that on, and it's gonna spin around for a minute, and it's gonna kind of look like scrambled eggs that aren't quite right cooked yet. So as you can see, the butter and the eggs and the milk kind of look like scrambled eggs that haven't been finished cooking yet, which is a little weird, but that's exactly how it's supposed to look. So next we're going to need to add in graham crackers, because this is a graham cracker cake, and we're going to use graham cracker crumbs, 1 cup of them. I'm going to turn the machine on slow, and I'm going to add those in. I also need 1 teaspoon of baking powder. I'm going to use that nice and level. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And then I also need 1/4 cup of flour. And again, I'm going to make sure that I use my finger to level it so I don't put in too much. And you don't need to mix it too much, just enough so that the ingredients combine and that you can't see the flour anymore. So now that the batter has all come together into a nice smooth mixture, we have to fold in the egg whites that we made into a meringue earlier. And you want to start off with just a little bit. They're really fluffy, kind of like marshmallows. And you put it in and you fold it in. You don't want to stir it. You want to make sure that you're folding it in. So after you get a little bit in there, just to lighten it up, you can go ahead and add the rest of the mixture and fold it all together. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to add it in. Just kind of slid in there. I'm going to fold it together. When I was a little boy, I would have been eyeing that batter right there from the mixer because I knew that it would taste delicious even though it wasn't cooked yet. But I probably shouldn't try it because it has raw eggs in it and raw flour, which might make me sick. And I don't know if I want to risk it. All right, I'll see you guys in just a moment. Okay, so now we need to grease the cake pan, and I'm going to do that by taking a little bit of butter and I put it into a piece of paper towel, and I'm just going to push it all the way around the edges of the cake pan, so that way I know that it isn't going to stick. If you're really worried about this, you could also add a little flour, but I'm not worried today. All right, after that, you're just going to take your batter and you're going to put it into the cake pan. Now normally this would make 2 cake pans full, but since it's just me and Mr. Nicholas right now eating this cake, I decided we should probably make a little cake instead of a really big cake. But if you wanted a big cake, you could always do a little more. And after that, you just smooth it around. And then it's going to be ready to go in the oven in just a moment. Alright, so the cake is all ready to bake now, so I'm going to put it in the oven at 350 degrees, and it's going to be there for about 30 to 35 minutes. Alright everybody, so while the cake is in the oven baking, we're going to go ahead and make a custard. And the custard is going to go in between the layers of the cake, and I'll show you how we do that later. But to start, we're going to need 3/4 of a cup of milk, and then 2 egg yolks like we had earlier. And we're just going to put those in and use a spatula to get them out because they're kind of sticky after they've been sitting for a little bit. Not bad though. Let's just set that aside. And then we're also going to need a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm gonna put that in. And I'm gonna use a fork and I'm gonna mix it up really good because I don't want to be able to see the eggs anymore. I want them to be mixed in really good. So I'm gonna do that for a second. I'll be right back. So my eggs and sugar and milk, pardon me, so my eggs and vanilla and milk are all mixed together. And next I'm going to need a half cup of sugar. Again, we're gonna level that like we've been doing. And I'm gonna put it into a pan. And then I'm going to add to that a tablespoon of cornstarch. And the cornstarch is gonna help make the custard thick. So you wanna put that in, and you wanna give it a stir so that you can't see the cornstarch anymore. You don't want any lumps. And after you do that, you're gonna turn your burner on high. Now, if you're doing this, this is definitely something that you need mommy and daddy to help you with. And after you get that on high, you can take your egg mixture and you're gonna dump it into the pan. And you're gonna keep stirring until all the sugar and the milk and the egg have combined, and it's gonna get nice and hot and thick. I'll show you in just a moment. And there it goes. I don't know if you guys can see, but it's thickened up and it's starting to bubble. So it's all done. All right, everybody. So the timer just went off so that I know that it's time to check on our cake. I'm gonna open up the oven and take a look inside. Well, I'm careful because it's very hot, but I see that the cake is golden brown. It's pulling away from the edges, which is really good. If I wiggle it, the cake doesn't move at all. And if I were to stick a chopstick in it, it comes out clean. So that way I know it's all done. So I'm gonna put it aside so that it can cool down and we can finish making our cake. Alright, so the last thing that we need to do before we get to assemble our cake is to make our cream cheese frosting. And in order to do that, we're gonna need about 6 ounces of cream cheese, which is about 3/4 of a package. So I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna put it in there. And I need a half a stick of butter. But uh-oh, I am missing my whisk attachment. So I'm gonna go find it and I'll be right back. Alright, so I found what I needed, so I'm just gonna mix everything together until it's nice and smooth. It's gonna take a couple of minutes until we get there. Alright, so it's been mixing for a couple of minutes, so that now, pardon me, we can go ahead and add a cup of powdered sugar. And I'm gonna turn the mixer on, and we're gonna do this kind of slowly, and then it's gonna turn into frosting. Turn it up just a little. I'm also going to add about a teaspoon of vanilla flavoring, which is about, I'll say 2 capfuls. And that looks good. Alright, so the only thing that's left to do is to taste it, just to make sure that it's good. And then after the cake and the custard are cooled, we can put everything together. So I'm going to take a clean spoon. I'm going to just take a little taste. Delicious cream cheese frosting. All right, I'm going to clean up and I'll be back in just a little bit. Hey everybody, so we have reached the final part of making a cake, which is assembly. That means that we're going to put all of the pieces together. So I took the cake and I cut it into 2 pieces, so that way that we can put the custard that we made in the middle of it. So I'm going to take my custard and I put it in the fridge so it's nice and cold now. And I'm going to put it in the middle. And I might not use all of it. And just kind of push it around a little bit. I don't want to use too much because I don't want it to smush out of the sides of the cake. It would still taste good, but it wouldn't look very pretty. So now I'm going to take the top, I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to put it right back where it started. And now I'm going to take the frosting and I'm going to put a big dollop on top of the cake. And I'm going to use a spatula, bigger dollop than that. We like lots of frosting. And I'm going to use the spatula to push it all around. I'm going to do that for a couple minutes and then I'll come back and I'll show you what I've got. So I just finished frosting the cake. And now we need to put on some blackberries. So I went to the store. Actually, I sent Mr. Nicholas to the store and he got blackberries for me. I don't want to lie to you. And we're going to take them and we're going to put them all around the edge of the cake. And I'm going to start off, it's kind of like making a clock. You do one, and then you think about what would be on the other side. So that way they'll come out kind of nice and even. Here's the bottom of that one, it's hiding. And we're gonna do one more over here. And I think it needs one in the middle, and that's perfect. Now comes the best part. We get to cut a piece, and we're gonna eat it. All right, so there it is. It's a piece of cake, and it's all ready to go. I'm gonna bring it to Mr. Nicholas to say thank you for going to the grocery store and helping me out earlier. I've also got a glass of milk to go with it. Speaking of milk, I was gonna read a story today that involved a glass of milk, but unfortunately we've run out of time. Making a cake takes a lot longer than I expected. So tomorrow we're gonna read Kitten's First Full Moon by Kevin Hankus, which I'm really excited about, so I hope I get to see everybody tomorrow. And remember, I love you, but don't tell anyone. Bye-bye.